Hello, and welcome back to the Next Level Her podcast, where we talk about real journeys, real growth, and the real process of becoming the next version of you. And today, we're going a little bit deeper, okay? As always, today we're talking about the garden. Which garden, you might ask? Well, we're talking about the Garden of Gethsemane. The place where pressure meets purpose, the place where calling meets cause, the place where you come face to face with who you're about to become. And today we're talking about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane and how that moment reflects the very same internal battles that many of us can face at times. Because whether you realize it or not, every single one of us will have a garden moment, okay? A moment where you realize you're standing between who you've been and who God is calling you to become. In Matthew 26:36 through 39. Jesus goes into the Garden of Gethsemane before his crucifixion. Just painting the picture for you, he already knew what's ahead. He knows the plan, he knows what's going to happen, he knows the sacrifice, he knows the weight of what requires of him, right? But what he does, he ended up praying. He prays, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will." Let's pause there for a moment because this is important. Even Jesus, who is perfect, fully aware of his purpose, still had a moment where he said, "Is there another way?" And I know we're not perfect, and we ask that question a lot like, is there another way? And when you look at Jesus, you definitely see that humanity side of him. Not weakness, but humanity. In verse 38, when he went to the garden, he was deeply distressed. He was sorrowful. He said, even to the point of death. But the thing about Jesus is that he prayed. He prayed before entering the next level. He prayed for the shift. Although he wanted it to be taken away from him, he still prayed and prayed for God's will to be done. So when we find ourselves struggling with entering the next level, we are going to be weak. We are going to be distressed sometimes, but you have to pray. It is prayer that is going to help you to get to feel confident and ready enough for the next level. Going to an isolated place, quote unquote, the garden, and praying, spending time at God's feet, that is going to help you with your decision making, with the process, with at least accepting it, is going to help you so you don't feel like you're doing it alone. He also said that the spirit is indeed willing, but the flesh is weak. Listen, deep down, we know when we need to do some things, but because the flesh is weak, we have to pray to get that strength. So I just love how it just shows Jesus's process in that. So we have something to imitate, to find us an isolated place to pray, a sacred place to pray, to seek the Father's input, to inquire or ask and have communication with God before you even move on to the next level. And then you see when he was done praying, his attitude was different. His mindset clearly was different. So it's important for us to spend that time, that sacred time in prayer so that we can get strengthened and so that we can build our confidence to move on to the next level. In the reality of the garden moment, is that the garden is not where purpose is assigned to you because he knew his purpose before he went to the garden. That garden moment is where purpose is accepted because he was wrestling with his purpose. He was wrestling with the plan. But in the garden, he had to wrestle, wrestle, wrestle. And then when he was done wrestling, he accepted. So you can be called, you can be chosen, you can be anointed, But there will come a moment where you have to decide, am I going to walk this out? Because the next level of your life requires the next version of you. Are you ready for the next version? Or are you wrestling with accepting the next version? That next version is going to stretch you. It's going to require more from you. It is going to require you to move differently. And it's going to let go of things you're still trying to hold on to. And if we're being honest, that's where the tension comes in because a lot of times we don't want to let go. We don't want to be stretched. We don't want to move differently because we're comfortable. But that garden, that's really where that identity battle takes place, you know, because Jesus was wrestling because initially he didn't want to accept it. He's like, God, if you can, take it away from me. Your will, although I'm asking for it, I still want it to be your will. But eventually he accepted. But in the garden, Jesus wasn't confused about who he was, though. But he was feeling the weight of what it required to fully step into the next level. And that's where many of us are right now, right? You're not confused about your calling, you're conflicted about your capacity. I know right now I am trying to figure out my own capacity. Maybe you're thinking, am I ready for this? What if I fail? What if people don't understand? What if I lose relationships? What if I disappoint people? And the thing is, the fear isn't always about failure. Sometimes the fear is about what success will require you to release. You have to release something in order to move on to the next level. And what Jesus modeled in that garden, Jesus showed us three critical things in that moment that we can implement in our own when we have our own garden moment, right? One, he was honest about how he felt. It's okay to be honest and it's okay to wrestle a little bit. You're human. He didn't pretend to be strong, he didn't suppress the moment. He said, if it is possible, let this pass. That's being honest, that's being real. You know, some of you are trying to step into your next level while ignoring how heavy it feels. You have to take the time to feel, you have to allow yourself to feel it, right? Because that's the only way you can truly be honest with yourself and move on to the next level without any resentment and without any regret. The second thing is that he separated his will from God's will. That's important. Not my will, but yours. That is what he said. Not my will, but your will. And that's the shift because the next version of you isn't built on comfort, it's built on alignment. And alignment will cost you. It will cost you old habits, old mindsets, and old identities that you have to shed, sometimes even old relationships. So, when you are wrestling, you have to, if we're going to model Jesus, he said, not my will, but your will. Are you taking the time to ask God, what is his will for your next level? Or are you leaning on your own will? The third thing I want you to realize is that he made a decision. Even in the discomfort, even in the uncertainty, even in the weight that he felt, he chose and he said yes. And that's the part people skip over because, yes, he was strengthened. God strengthened him to be able to move to the next level. But he still said yes, even when he was uncomfortable and everything else, right? So let's look at your garden moment. Some of you are in your garden moment right now. I know I am. I'll probably be here all summer. Who knows? You might feel the shift. You feel the pressure. You feel the call to evolve, but you're hesitating because becoming the next version of you means you can't think the same, you can't move the same, and you can't stay where you are. Just like Jesus had to make the decision, he said, come on, let's go, let's rise, whatever version you might read. He did not stay where he was. He had to move. And the truth is, you don't grow into the next version of you by accident. It is intentional. You have to make a decision. You have to move. So, what happens if you deny the next version of yourself? Well, let's see. If you decide not to choose and stay where you are, that is still a choice. You have decided. You have decided to stay where you are and not elevate. And when you deny the next version of you, you stay stuck in cycles you've outgrown. You feel frustrated but don't know why. You start shrinking to fit spaces that no longer align. And you delay the life you've been praying for. And eventually you become uncomfortable in your current life, but too afraid to step into your next one. That's a painful place to be because even if you pick this place, you're not going to be happy. And when God has a calling on your life, if you pick your will and not God's will, you will find yourself back in the garden again until you pick God's will. Because God knows what's best for you. And when you decide your own will sometimes can feel like it's suffocating you because that's not the best version for you, right? So even when you don't decide, you decided. But the thing is, when you say yes, everything shifts, not because it gets easier, but because you get clearer and you get more aligned. You start to move with intention. You start to make decisions differently and you stop negotiating with your growth. And most importantly, you stop abandoning yourself. Although that growth might be uncomfortable, you are going to be thankful and appreciative of that growth because staying the same does not serve you. And the hard truth about the next level is that even the next level that you enter requires a level of surrender. Jesus didn't just skip the garden process, right? So why do we think we can skip ours? Every level that you move into is going to require a garden version. There's no becoming without confronting your old version, and there's no elevation without surrender. So, whatever season that you're in, whatever you're dealing with, just know that just like Jesus had to go to the Garden of Gethsemane to wrestle and to pretty much decide, right, to move to the next level, you're going to have to do the same thing. Because sometimes we're not always ready, spiritually ready or emotionally ready for the next level. And we need to go to the garden to pray, to ask God for strength, to ask God for support, to ask God for clarity, and to get pretty much to be strengthened to move on to the next level. So some things I want you to reflect on. I want you to ask yourself, what is my garden right now? What is God calling me into that I've been resisting? And what version of me am I afraid to become? What am I holding on to that I need to release? And the biggest question I want you to consider is, am I going to accept the next version of me? Or am I going to deny the next level her? Which one are you going to choose? Both requires work, but only one is fulfilling. So the garden is not meant to break you. Jesus did not break. If anything, he was strengthened. The garden is meant to reveal you. The garden is meant to give you clarity. The garden is meant to strengthen you, like I mentioned earlier. The version of you that can carry more, the version of you that can walk boldly, the version of you that is aligned, disciplined, and surrendered. And just like Jesus, you may have your moments of hesitation. And that's okay. That's human. That's normal, right? But don't stay there and don't accept the old version of yourself. Make the decision, the right decision, which is to get in alignment, choose growth, choose the next version of you. Because everything on the other side of your yes is waiting for you to become her. The person who is ready to get into alignment, the person who is ready to shift. So, whenever you get into the garden, just remember you can do it and it will be okay. So, if this episode spoke to you, share it with another woman who may be in her garden right now. And as always, this is the Next Level Her podcast where real journeys, real growth, and the real you take place. I will see you in the next episode. Talk soon.